Go on, in you go. Come on, girls, in you go. Let's go. Come on, Jim, buggy. Look at you, Adrian. Come on, come on. When I was growing up, we had a big garden where we used to grow most of the vegetables for the house. The table was full of vegetables. If you had a salad, lettuce, spring onions, tomatoes, it was all grown in the garden. That's what we're going to do. These are only small ones, I'll put 2 of these in. So that goes there. Get him in there. And you don't want the pots too heavy because you've got to carry the buggers everywhere you go. If you get a 60, 70-year-old boy now, they'll always remember having gardens. They always remember growing vegetables, because these are the people. If you go, my father, my mother, they understood rationing. So when they had a plot of land, it was covered in vegetables. And then when the other people, like I said, who was rationed in the Second World War, they understood that there was no money for carrots, for new vegetables and whatever else, so they grew their own. But it's too easy now to go down to a supermarket and get a bag of carrots for bloody dead cheap, you know, and then peel them carrots and I think, well, yeah, what are we going to do now? There's no satisfaction in it.
If it doesn't start with one person, then it doesn't start at all. We all need to make sure we do our individual part and others will follow.
If it isn't a bottom-up process, it's doomed to be unsustainable, really. And especially the smaller spaces, if you're doing kind of community gardens and so on, they're not going to work if people are not involved.
Once the individual has mastered the garden, this knowledge is passed on through communities, like the one here at Offshoots.
I still get stopped in the park when I have my Offshoots jacket on in the middle of December saying, have you got any vegetables to sell?
This community gives people the chance to grow their own produce when they may not have the space back home to do so.
And people are very generous with the time, so there's lots of people who come here and they're not looking at it just as a way of growing their own vegetables. They just want to see it succeed.
This site has been going since the late 90s on the permaculture principles, where people who really believed in sustainable living before sustainable living became the fashionable thing.
People are sort of waking up to the idea that we've got to look after the earth, we've got to look after how we grow things, and we've got to care for each other.
But you know, younger people are getting involved as well, and that's where the movement's going really. We're seeing a lot more younger people getting involved, being employed and making a big difference in cities.
But when put into practice, can it work sustainably in the city?
I live about a 5-minute walk away. This is on my route back home from work or on the way to work, so I can kind of check how things are going. We've got all sorts growing here, from kind of cardoons to onions and sort of everyday veg, as well as lots of herbs. Last year I grew some mange too, and probably for a couple of weeks over summer I had fresh mange too every day, which was really nice.
A 2014 study showed that over 60% of people aged under 44 live in major urban areas of cities. There is a growth of younger people wanting to grow their own produce. Corporations play a big part in showing the world what can be done with free space to create something that could potentially be sustainable. Although just a small idea at first, the Printworks rooftop garden now produces food for the Forever Manchester and Booth charity that feeds the homeless, along with growing small amounts of produce for the different tenants underneath.
So in the commercial building, basically we just grow different types of produce up here. So you can see rhubarb, probably the closest one, and mint. Around the back we've got peppers, spring onions, radish, potatoes, all sorts, strawberries.
Wing is the office manager at the Printworks and tends to the garden on the roof himself with one other volunteer gardener. Together, they've been looking after the plot in and out of work when best they can. The project was started 6 years ago by the centre director Fred Booth, with the bees being the first thing they brought in.
It's just one day it's thought, you know, I wanted to do something that's a bit different than what anyone else does, so you probably don't find as many commercial buildings that would have anything like this on the roof. There's quite an empty space on this part of the roof here, so why not? Let's make something out of it, really. I never used to do any gardening about 2 years ago until I started working here, and it's kind of become part of my job description now that it wasn't in there before, so I had to look after the garden up here. And you know, it is kind of fun, it's interesting, it's slightly different than your normal, usual office day work.
The Printworks took advantage of the open space in the hopes that other people would look at them and follow suit.
So it's taking it more seriously, it's taking it to the next level, but on a very simple basis, it's just getting involved, growing in your own gardens, getting an allotment, community garden as well. Helps bring together communities, neighbourhoods, and again on the larger scale can help to almost feed those neighbourhoods potentially one day.
It all starts with one, and it only takes one to influence nearly 8 billion.